Would he have changed if I had said, "Don't do that"? Dislike it. But I couldn't. I couldn't be myself. Ever since she was little, Sally Field has been that girl, creating waves in the industry. She's 78 and done proving herself. She lived her life fully and unapologetic. Sally has a side behind her charm that the public rarely sees. Remembering side. Her side remembers who and how she was wronged. Finally, Sally Field is speaking out after years. Who crossed her? So what did they do? Please join us for the details. Burt Reynolds, heartbreaker. One of Hollywood's most honest and realistic stars is Sally Field. Sincerity has limits, especially after grief. Under her charm is a lady who was betrayed and scarred. One of her deepest hurts came from Burt Reynolds, a lover she once loved. Sally Field and Burt Reynolds met on Smokey and the Bandit in 1977. Their chemistry illuminated every scene. That spark led to a 5-year passionate, turbulent romance off-screen. Outside, they looked like the golden couple. Two stars in love and fame, perfectly matched. The truth was much more difficult behind the cameras. How? Watch to find out. Burt said that Sally was his lifelong love, but Sally remembers otherwise. Her 1979 Oscar nomination for her stunning portrayal in Norma Rae was one of her most important career events. She remembers his performance. The winner is Sally Fields. Not celebrating her accomplishment, Burt grew distant. His dissatisfaction with her attention was evident, she claims. Sally isn't shy in Dave Karger's new book 50 Oscar Nights. Reynolds, her boyfriend at the time, was unhappy with her Oscar hype. That nomination signified her transition from humor to drama. Instead of helping, Burt made her feel tiny. Reynolds had abandoned her by the 1980 Academy Awards. Refused to be her date. Sally resorted to her friends, comedian David Steinberg and his wife Judy, who gave her a memorable night. A champagne-filled limo picked her up. Turned a lonely night into a jubilant celebration, but it was too late. Sally believes Burt was uneasy with her burgeoning success, as shown by the red carpet snub. He didn't want her at Cannes. Remember him saying, "You don't think you'll win anything?" A stinging comment. Passionate, their relationship was always turbulent. Over the years, Sally has openly described how difficult and painful it was. In Pieces, her 2018 book published shortly after Reynolds' death, she exposed how emotionally draining that relationship was. Burt was charismatic and attractive, and she was thrilled that Hollywood's biggest sex symbol wanted her as his girlfriend. It made her desirable, hot and seen. It cost, though. She says she molded herself to his will. She dressed, walked, and lived for him. "I wanted to be everything he wanted," she wrote. She gradually stopped being herself. Over time, Burt got more controlling. He accepted some of her traits but not others. He proposed several times and worked with her again in breezy comedies like Smokey and The Bandit 2. Sally instinctively felt something was wrong. She also worried about his health. She worried about Burt's habitual use of Percodan, Valium, and barbiturates. He silenced her every time she mentioned it. Therapy wasn't his choice. Didn't want to hear it or change. Sally's career grew as their relationship deteriorated. She earned her second Oscar for Places in the Heart in 1984 after Norma Rae in 1980. She and Burt had split by then. His career declined, but he returned in the late 1990s with his Oscar-nominated Boogie Nights performance. Despite her anguish, Sally never publicly slandered him. In his 2015 autobiography, But Enough About Me, Burt informed the press he regretted their breakup. He said in interviews he respected Sally's talent and thought they would have been happy together. Not working with Sally was your biggest regret. You recently claimed you miss her terribly. She's your soulmate. I miss her. He appeared on Today a few months before his 2018 death and said he found her talent appealing. The item he sought to dim. She was. I wanted her bad for smoking, but they thought she's not sexy. No, you don't understand. Talent is hot. Sally didn't share nostalgia. She said they had lost touch in a 2016 interview. She told the New York Times in 2018 that the connection was loving but harmful. In her memoir, she compared Burt's dominance to her abusive stepfather. The bond was deep but unhealthy. After Burt's passing, Sally published a brief, heartfelt statement saying she never forgot her time with him. But that lyrical goodbye also brought relief. She said she was delighted he would never read her memoir, especially the passages about him. Sally's toughest co-stars weren't always ex-lovers. People like Tommy Lee Jones left their mark in unique ways. Tommy Lee Jones, egomaniac. Some kisses are lifelong. Others you wish you could forget. Sally Field, who's worked with Hollywood's biggest names, didn't always like on-screen relationships. Behind the scenes, things were messy and even unpleasant, but audiences loved her chemistry with co-stars. One kiss was memorable for the wrong reasons. When asked about her worst on-screen kiss, Sally replied quickly, No one matched Tommy Lee Jones. In the 1981 romantic comedy Backroads, she played a gritty sex worker and he a washed-up boxer. Sally said she got uneasy, cold, and unforgettable instead of passion for the story. In the worst way. She later said Tommy Lee Jones was in a horrible phase. Though she said she still loved him, the kiss was too forceful for her. So horrible that years later, he sought her out to apologize. Issues continued after the kiss. Perhaps it just started. While the cameras rolled, their tension was clear. The public didn't realize that Field and Jones hated each other off camera. The film's director, Martin Ritt, even blamed their conflict for its poor performance. He later admitted that the storyline was inadequate and the performers' clashing personalities prevented him from completing the picture. Behind their on-screen romance was anything but love. Tom strangely smoothed sharp edges. In 2012, Field and Jones appeared on Lincoln as political partners after 3 decades of conflict. No uncomfortable kisses were needed after their Oscar-nominated performances. Sally's co-star stories aren't always bad. She immediately said James Garner was her best on-screen kiss. She grinned and sat back in her chair, lost in memories, her eyes nearly closing. She needed no second thoughts. Garner just got it, she said. Whatever it was his. That kiss affected Sally and the scene. It seemed to remain in her golden memory years later. They had perfect chemistry, not just acting. Sadly, James Garner died in 2014 at 86, but he left a mark. He offered her something to grin about, unlike Jones. Garner gave her a memory she could close her eyes on, unlike some co-stars who left her frustrated and regretful. No resentment or apology. Robert Blake's Sally Field has worked with many passionate, tough, and memorable characters before joining Say Goodbye, Maggie Cole. She was unprepared for Robert Blake. It started as another acting project, but became one of her most hectic and emotionally taxing. Blake's profound acting and volatile temperament didn't merely intensify his persona. He caused instability throughout production. From day one, Sally struggled to find her groove. Blake's improvisation wrecked carefully choreographed and blocked scenes in real time. He would randomly swap lines, go off-script mid-dialogue, or produce something unexpected that ruined a take. Sally regarded what others saw as artistic spontaneity as reckless disdain for everyone on production. The damage continued after her performance. Blake's behavior caused emotional damage behind the scenes. Crew members murmured about his mood swings and tantrums. He'd been eerily silent and hyper-focused. He'd explode over a lighting change or yell at a technician for performing their job the next. Every cast and crew member felt the everyday tension that hung in the air like smoke. Sally. She did more than act due to her demanding role. She always tried to mediate. She tried to calm Blake's outbursts, calm the team, and save the production with pure willpower. But the fight was one-sided. What should have been dramatic drama became a barely managed disaster as set energy got toxic and stress poured into every scene. The initiative eventually failed. Say Goodbye, Maggie Cole never aired. What could have showcased Sally's emotional breadth became a Hollywood dysfunction cautionary tale. The film was secretly shelved due to uncontrollable behind-the-scenes instability. Most actors would have been disappointed professionally. Sally felt it more deeply. Later, she called it irritating and traumatic. A traumatic encounter with a man who ruined her work and dignity. She reflected about the ordeal openly. Sally stated some performers act and others want to make others little to feel big. Robert Blake was second class to her. Not simply a critique, but a hurt. Say Goodbye. Maggie Cole offered her a pledge, but no awards, premieres, or screen legacy. She would never accept chaos as brilliance again. Never again would she bend to others' storms. The event changed Sally Field as an actress and a woman who had earned the right to demand respect and ceased apologizing for it. Sometimes storms weren't caused by unpredictable guys or botched sets. Sometimes they came from ladies like Sally who had worked their whole lives to get there and wouldn't share the view. In one of the most famous girl power films, she fought silently. Fierce competition between Shirley MacLaine and Sally Field. Steel Magnolias, starring Dolly Parton, Olympia Dukakis, Daryl Hannah, Julia Roberts, Sally Field, and Shirley MacLaine, was praised for its melancholy celebration of female friendship, love, and loss on its 1989 release. The film won over generations, but behind the scenes, the relationship between Sally Field and Shirley MacLaine was not as friendly as it seemed. Their characters often battled on television. Sally played Menlyn Eatonton, a sensitive but strong mother grieving her daughter. Shirley played Weezer Boudreau. The town grouch's tongue and stare were keen. The tension in their narrative wasn't wholly imaginary. From the start of filming in Nashatox, Louisiana, the two actresses had chemistry. The kind that produces friction, not the magnetic kind that elevates views. Sally and Shirley regularly clashed over working style, on-set intensity, or personality. Though they didn't fight, their relationship was tense. Insiders said both successful ladies showed strong presence in the production. When two powerful women clash, trouble is sure to follow. Disagreeing on scene direction was sometimes enough. Sometimes it felt like personal space and professional respect were quietly at conflict. The film's character relationship reflected this off-screen vitality. Malin and Wiese exchanged biting sarcasm and standoffishness. Watching closely, it was easy to assume some of that tension was real. Still, they succeeded. Steel Magnolias became a cultural classic, a beautiful narrative of loss, love, and strength based on screenwriter Robert Harling's sister's type 1 diabetes-related death. Despite behind-the-scenes issues, Sally and Shirley gave memorable performances. Cold energy between them seemed to melt with time. Go to 2012. When Steel Magnolias cast honored Shirley MacLaine at the American Film Institute's Lifetime Achievement Gala. No cold shoulders or sidelong stares, simply clapping, smiles, and a shared celebration of a long, winding Hollywood journey that night. Sally showed that she doesn't allow previous grudges cloud the big picture, no matter how tense things were. Shirley accepted her award on stage. Sally joined her former Steel Magnolias co-stars in cheering and clapping. And that moment spoke volumes. You may never forget how you treated Sally Field, but she'll show up when it matters. She'll clap. She'll honor you. She shows she's more than an actress. Although her background wasn't filled with magnolias, she's a class act who can go on. The Manipulator, James Would Kiss Me Goodbye, was supposed to be a light, frothy romantic comedy with a novel premise and enough charm to win over audiences. Sally Field anticipated laughter, pleasure, and even whimsy. She instead faced an emotional chess match with James Woods, one of Hollywood's most difficult co-stars. Sally sensed trouble from the start of filming. The sharp-witted and moody Woods didn't just act. He dissected. He criticized the storyline, character motivations, and director's vision in front of cast and crew. Sally, who valued emotional honesty and collaborative storytelling, found the set swiftly becoming a pressure cooker rather than a creative playground. Every practice was war. Woods rewrote lines on the spot, changing scene tone without warning. Artistic spontaneity wasn't his goal. He took charge. He steamrolled the film's flow and his castmates' comfort. Sally in particular. She later described Woods as intellectually scary, not challenging or uplifting, but tyrannical. He weaponized his intellect by peppering conversations with condescending phrases that prevented discussion. His mid-scene criticism of Sally's choices was patronizing. Sally was worn down by more than work. The off-camera trauma was deeper. Woods would make offhand comments between takes, appearing to give input. He'd say she wasn't providing enough, wasn't committed, or was preoccupied. The criticism may have gone ignored, but Sally, a performer who gave her all, took it personally. Sally didn't see these statements as a co-worker encouraging her. Someone tried to shrink her. She'd fought for years to be seen and heard in a male-dominated industry, claiming her talent and voice without apology. However, on a set meant to be fun, she had to defend herself again. From her perspective, Kiss Me Goodbye wasn't difficult. Character wasn't difficult. Surviving the psychological warfare was difficult. Daly felt like a tightrope, not because of the storyline, but because of the man alongside her who seemed more interested in domination than beauty. Sally left the shoot exhausted but determined. That encounter was more than exhausting. It altered her. A silent vow was made. Never again would she let someone mistake intellect for superiority lower her voice. Her pledge would be tested sooner than planned. A casting room blurred opportunity and humiliation in the most unexpected way, not on a movie set. Surprising villain Dustin Hoffman. The public knows Dustin Hoffman as an Oscar-winning superstar whose performances in The Graduate, Tootsie, and Kramer vs. Kramer made him one of the best actors of his generation. Sally Field didn't see Dustin Hoffman as a revered artist or peer. He was a harsh disappointment and a painful reminder that on-screen skill doesn't often mean off-screen honesty. Though never listed on a film poster, their paths crossed briefly and memorably. Sally attended a chemistry read for a film that never was made in the early 1980s. It seemed like a good part opposite one of Hollywood's biggest stars. What was supposed to be a creative collaboration became Sally's worst job experience. Sally said Hoffman had taken over the room before she entered. He stood court, joked with the producers, gave unsolicited screenplay feedback, and exuded dominance rather than discovery. Hoffman interrupted her reading constantly to correct, not collaborate. He criticized her delivery, character choices, and condescending remarks, which ruined the scene. A quiet audition became a public deconstruction. Sally felt unprofessional auditioning for a big position. She subsequently described feeling like a schoolgirl being lectured by the class genius. This wasn't mentoring, not even criticism, a humiliation. A mutual contact told her what Hoffman said thereafter, deepening the pain days later. They said Hoffman ruined the audition by telling others the chemistry wasn't there and that he'd made sure of it. Sally considered that cruel and unprofessional. She struggled with that for weeks. Was her reading incorrect? Was she too weak in the room? Clarity eventually replaced self-doubt. Not her failure. It came from Hoffman's urge to dominate and prove he was smartest in every situation, even by stomping on someone else to show it. Sally later called it one of her most embarrassing professional moments, but it was a turning point. She left that audition hurt, but determined. She determined to never work with arrogant intellects again. As promised, she never did. Ironically, Sally and Hoffman reunited at the 1980 Academy Awards after that horrific encounter. Hoffman won Best Actor for Kramer vs. Kramer, while Sally won her first Oscar. Despite sharing the stage, their journeys were very different. Sally quietly conveyed a different truth as Hollywood celebrated Hoffman's talent. One unfilmed and unscripted, but nevertheless affected her future. She left the audition room with a better knowledge of her value and the power of refusing to be diminished by another man's ego. Which name surprised you most? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click the next video. Enjoy it.